we shift over for a few minutes to the study of Talmud and Hayom Yom. Okay, so I'm switching over to Hayom Yom today. We're studying, today's date is 23rd, I think. It's the 23rd of Nisan. Let's take a look at the Hayom Yom. Today's Hayom Yom goes as follows. On the last day of Pesach, the light of Mashiach shines openly. As we learned in yesterday's Hayom Yom, the following aspect of this revelation is relevant and accessible to every Jew. Pesach is medaleg. Pesach means skipping over, rather than orderly progress. And Leil Shimurim, the first night of Pesach, is the protected night. In general, the mood of Pesach is one of liberty. When then Pesach ends and we fall into mundane world, and this then is the revelation of Mashiach's light, the imparted, staunch resoluteness which enables us to re-enter the mundane world. Very interesting to explain this. I'm going to try to explain this with a story, with a personal family story of Hannah's grandfather, Rabbi Gershon Mendel Gorelik, who, together with his wife, Rebbetzin Gorelik, were sent by the Rebbe in the 50s, over 60 years ago, to Milan, Italy. They went to open their shlichus in Milan. I think it was 1956 or 58. I'm not sure exactly which year it was, but it was over 60 years ago. Incredible. They were there, and it was around Hanukkah when they went to Milan. So Rabbi Gershon Mendel, Rabbi Gorelik, was a real Israel chassid and very, very connected with every fiber of his being to the Rebbe. And he kind of made himself a pledge that he was going to visit the Rebbe every Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh. Every Shabbos, Mevarachim, the Shabbos that blesses the new month, he's going to fly back to the Rebbe. Now, in those days, nobody traveled like that. I mean, it was crazy to travel that much. But he said, this is what I'm going to do. It's my lifeline. It's my oxygen. I've got to stay connected to the Rebbe. What happened was that he comes the first Shabbos Mevarachim, and the second one, I think, he wasn't able to arrange maybe the funds or the time or whatever. He wasn't able to really make it to New York. But when it came Pesach, a few months later, he said, that's it, I have to go. And to cut a long story short, he basically arranged himself. He went to one of the donors in the community and he explained to him the need. And the guy bought him a ticket to go to the Rebbe. A lot of money in those days. So there he was after the first days of Pesach, which he spent with Milan, in his community Milan. And he's getting ready. Like the third, maybe it was the fifth, or I think it was the fifth day of Pesach. It was Chol HaMoed, the intermediary days. He was in Milan, and he went down to the ground level so he could get a taxi to take him to the airport to go to New York, to the Rebbe. So as he's getting ready, waiting for the taxi, he notices the mailman comes. Now, Rabbi Gorelik would always write to the Rebbe. Anything on his mind, he would write to the Rebbe. And before anybody went to the Rebbe, especially in those days, he had to ask permission. So he told the Rebbe, I'd like to come. He wrote a letter to the Rebbe, no faxes, obviously, no emails, nothing. Not even phone calls in those days. He wrote a letter to the Rebbe saying he would like to come for the last days of Pesach. As he's waiting for the taxi to arrive, he sees the mailman arrives, and he's filling in the boxes. So he sees his box also has mail. He opens the mail, and he sees a letter from the Rebbe addressed to him. And it says, in short, I can't believe that you want to come to me for the last days of Pesach. Here you are, the first days of Pesach you spent with your community. Pesach is about reinventing ourselves. It's about breaking out of our boundaries, breaking out of Egypt. Egypt means boundaries and limitations, reinventing ourselves higher and higher and higher spiritually and in every level. And if the first days of Pesach is reinventing ourselves, how much more so is the last days of Pesach reinventing ourselves? Closely connected to the Maimer, the discourse that I mentioned earlier in this class. And how much more so your community needs you now in the last days of Pesach than even in the first days of Pesach. And you can't abandon your post. Then and there he decided he canceled this trip to New York and he went back upstairs and apparently he never ever went again to the Rebbe for Pesach, I believe. He always stayed Pesach in Milan based upon this letter. So the point is that Pesach is a series of reinvention of self. It's not just that we experience self-renewal during Pesach, and then we go back to the normal. No, it's a progression. It's a linear progression, where this year's Pesach, think of a spiral, which keeps on rising higher. And every year, when you reach the same point, you're at the same spot as last year, but you're higher than last year. And then a year from now, we'll still be experiencing the freedom of Pesach, but we'll be higher than we are this year. So constantly you're moving higher, which means the day after Pesach, there's more liberation than the day before Pesach, which means the last days of Pesach is more liberation than the first days of Pesach. And that's what it says in today's Yom Yom, that when we experience liberation, when we experience the light of Mashiach on the last day of Pesach, it is the power of breaking free. The whole concept of Pesach is passing over, is breaking out of our limitations. So the whole general mood of Pesach is liberty. When Pesach ends, we don't simply fall into mundane rut. We have the power to carry us. That is the light of Mashiach, the ability to constantly reinvent ourselves, to constantly break our boundaries, and to go higher and higher. That gives us the power to be able to enter the mundane world with the right attitude. And with that, I'm going to go straight back into the Talmud, which we've missed for a while. I see a comment from Warren on YouTube. Why not bring the exception in it is a growing fact? How can you not? I serve on a child abuse board, advisory board home, and see bad situations. The real world of child abuse is hard to deal with. Warren, I do not disagree with you. The real world of child abuse is horrible. It is the most painful, disgusting, obnoxious behavior. Pedophiles and, for somebody to attack a child is just so unthinkable. But that's not what I'm talking about. In other words, I'm not ignoring the reality of child abuse. Yes, there is child abuse, but in a healthy situation, which is one where there is no child abuse, that's where children are happy. So I'm not trying to address children in general. I'm just addressing regular, normal children, without ignoring the fact that, yes, there is tremendous amounts of child abuse. And I congratulate you for sitting on such an important board. And I see this topic is very sensitive to you, and I have to tell you it's very sensitive to me too. You know, I've got a lot of kids, and I have to tell you that we are constantly on the lookout because you never actually know who could be the one that might be abusing someone. Oftentimes, Warren, I'm sure you know this, it is someone that is your best friend, like the uncle of the kids, God forbid. And we are extremely sensitive to this, extremely, Khan and I. So I don't want you to think for a second that I'm somehow minimizing or mitigating the importance or the importance of child abuse awareness. But that's not what I'm talking about. It's like a different topic to what we're talking. We're talking about trust in God. And I'm bringing an example from the world of the child. So yes, the world of the child is related to the world of the child abuse, but that's not where I'm going. It's not a class in child abuse. So I'm not going to go there right now, but I absolutely want to condone your point as being a very, very valid and important point. And the importance of child protection services is extremely important. So painful when you think of children that are abused, that are robbed of their innocence, robbed of their happiness. And by the way, they're scarred for life. It's the most horrible thing to see the impact of child abuse. Let's study a little Talmud here, guys. We're studying the Talmud. It's Ein Yaakov, this book, if you happen to have the book. If you don't have the book, by the way, you could just buy it online. I think you should really buy this book online. It's available on Art Scroll Masorah. From Art Scroll Masorah. I'm sure you can buy it on Amazon. If not, you can buy it on Art Scroll Masorah. Artscroll.com. It's artscroll.com. It's called Ein Yaakov. They only have one edition in print. E-I-N Yaakov is the second word, Y-A-A-K-O-V. Just buy the book and just follow with me. It's fun. Okay, awesome. Okay, so it's probably like $30 or $25 to buy this book. Let's do this, guys. We're learning about marriage right now. Oh, this is one of my favorite pieces of Talmud. Oh, I have so many favorites. This piece of Talmud, my friends, unbelievable. We might spend a few weeks, I warn you, on this page here because this is an unbelievably beautiful piece of Talmud. All pieces of Talmud are beautiful, but this is one of my all-time favorites. I'm actually thinking of writing a book on this piece of Talmud. Let's go. I'm on page 85 if you happen to have the book. Another teaching of Rav Chelba in the name of Rav Huna, but on a different topic. We learned a lot about prayer and synagogues and good stuff. Let's go further. Rabbi Chelba also said in the name of Rav Huna, anyone who gets benefit from the wedding feast of a groom but does not make him glad violates the 5 sounds mentioned in Jeremiah by treating them lightly. At the time of the first destruction, Jeremiah prophesied that joy and happiness would one day return. Can you imagine the grief, the destruction, the sadness? Jerusalem had been destroyed for the very first time by Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian emperor. Millions of Jews had been executed. Blood was flowing freely in the streets. The survivors were being led in chains to a foreign land, to Babylon. A very small segment of the population was allowed to remain depressed in the land of Israel. Jeremiah is prophesying that joy and happiness will one day return. As it says in Jeremiah, they will again be heard in the cities of Yehuda and in the streets of Yerushalayim. Od yishama bi'arei Yehuda uvechutzot Yerushalayim. And now he mentions 5 voices that will be heard. Kol sason ve'kol simcha, kol chatan ve'kol kala, kol omrim hodu. The sound of joy, the sound of gladness, the sound of the groom and the sound of the bride, and the sound of those saying, praise Hashem, master of legions. In this verse, there are 5 sounds associated with the groom's joy. A person who does, so basically it says that just like the groom and bride have 5 sounds of joy, so too when we will return back here to the land of Israel, which by the way, he said was going to happen in 70 years time, 70. 70 years time. It was a tremendous prophecy that shaped the entire era and actually came true. Exactly 70 years later is when King Cyrus, also known as King Darius II, son of Esther and Achashverosh, sends the Jewish people back to Israel to build the temple, exactly 70 years later. In this verse, there are 5 sounds associated with the groom's joy. A person who does not try to gladden the groom when it is proper for him to do so, because he has eaten at the groom's feast, shows that the groom's joy is not important to him and thus takes these 5 sounds lightly. So just like there's 5 sounds of joy associated with the wedding, so too there'll be 5 sounds of joy associated with the return of the exiles back to Israel. The Gemara continues. And if he does gladden the groom, what is his reward? Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said he merits to acquire Torah, which was given with 5 sounds. As it says, when the Torah was given on Mount Sinai, we're counting down the days now to Shavuot, to the revelation of Mount Sinai, which is taking place exactly 7 weeks, 50 days after the Exodus from Egypt. It says, on the 3rd day when it was morning, there were sounds, which is plural, that's 2, and lightning and a heavy cloud in the mountain, and the sound of the shofar was very powerful, and the sound of the shofar grew continue much stronger. Moshe would speak, and God would respond to him with a sound. 5 times we see the word sound. The knowledge of Torah, which was given with 5 sounds, is granted to someone who has fulfilled the 5 sounds of gladdening the groom. Now, this is a very enigmatic piece of Talmud. We're obviously understanding that in 3 cases, there are 5 sounds of joy. In the case of the wedding, there's 5 sounds of joy. We need to understand what that means. In the case of Torah, there are 5 sounds of Torah. And in the case of the return of the exiles back to Israel, there is 5 sounds. And they're all connected. When one gladdens the bride and groom, he will experience Torah, the 5 sounds of Torah. And anyone who benefits from the wedding groom, from the feast of the groom, but does not make him glad, violates the 5 sounds, which kind of means that he might not experience the redemption of 5 sounds, or might not experience Torah with its 5 sounds. The Gemara asks on this last point, but is this so? That only 5 sounds are mentioned at the giving of the Torah? Why it is written in another verse right after the giving of the Torah, the entire people saw the sounds, which seems to imply that there was a 6th sound. Or it said sounds, plural, 6 and 7. 2 more in addition to the 5. The Gemara answers, that last verse is not referring to additional sounds that were heard after the giving of the Torah. Rather, those are the same sounds mentioned above, which were heard before the giving of the Torah. Thus, there were only 5 sounds. That last verse is simply telling us something about those earlier sounds. The Gemara adds other things about someone who gladdens a groom. I'm just going to finish this up. Rabbi Abba said it was as if he brought a Torah offering. Somebody who makes the groom and bride happy. It is considered as if he makes the bride and groom. It's considered as if he brought a thanksgiving offering before God. Since after the verse says the sound of the joy, the sound of the groom, it continues and says they bring Torah offerings to the house of Hashem. They bring thanksgiving offerings to the house of God. Basically, if you want to bring a thanksgiving offering before God, then go to a wedding and make the bride and groom really happy. Dance with them. Rabbi Nachman Bar Yitzchak said it is as if he built up one of the ruins of Jerusalem, as it says at the end of the verse, for I will return the captivity of the land as at first said Hashem. So the fact that there is an adjacency between the 5 sounds of the bride and groom, together with the thanksgiving offering, and together adjacent to the return of the captivity of the land of Israel, shows you that anyone who experiences who is able to bring the experience of joy to the bride and groom, will actually also experience or consider it as if he built up the ruins of Jerusalem. Now, this piece of Talmud seems cute, but what's going on over here? Why is it that we're suddenly getting so hung up in the amount of times that there's a reference to a voice when it comes to the bride and groom, when it comes to Torah, and when it comes to the return of the exiles? Like, well, who cares? Like, what is this? Like some sort of a word game? Are we like remembering words? We're saying like a matching game. Oh, I see a word here. Oh, I see a word there. What does this really matter? And here we're introduced to the profundity of Torah. God gives us the Torah. It's God's gift to mankind, and therefore cannot simply be read on a shallow, detached armchair basis. It's something that needs to be deeply understood and contemplated upon. Where there's a 5-word reference in the context of marriage is deeply connected to a 5-word reference in the context of Torah. And what I'm about to share with you, friends, and the content of the book that I'd like to write, I'd love to hear your feedback about this, is something which I believe can transform your marriage. It definitely transformed mine. This piece of Talmud, and I'm not going to have time to explain that today. I think I'm already out of time. But over the next few days, starting Monday again, we'll resume back on Monday morning, 8:30. We will be going through this and talking about the meaning of the 5 sounds of the groom and the bride, the meaning of the 5 sounds of Torah. When we understand the 5 sounds in the context of your relationship with your loved one, with your spouse, this is an absolute game changer. I guarantee you. I was in South Africa a few weeks ago, and somebody came over to me and he says, "You're Rabbi Vigler from Palm Beach. Last time you were here, I don't know, it was 3 years ago, you gave a sermon about the 5 sounds." And he says he's been remembering it ever since. He repeats it whenever he can. And he repeated to me like the main points of the whole sermon, because it truly is a life-transforming concept from this piece of Talmud. A classic example how a piece of Talmud looks so shallow, irrelevant, and quite frankly useless. But when you have a mentor, a guide, that's a shepherd that can take you through, hold you by the hand, and show you around. It's like going through the Louvre Museum and saying, "Oh, a woman smiling. She doesn't even look so nice. Okay, next. Hello, you're looking at the Mona Lisa. You need someone to explain to you the profundity of what's going on over here. You need the curator." And that's my job, to be the curator, to walk you through this piece of Talmud, to help share with you the profundity, the meaning of it, so that you can apply the principles of this beautiful piece of Talmud in a way that will transform your relationship forever. You'll be a changed spouse, friends. I'm excited. Share your thoughts and comments with me. Please send me an email to rabbi@jewishgardens.com. That's rabbi@jewishgardens.com. If I haven't been able to respond to your emails in the past few days, maybe a week or so, I'm a little behind. That's because of the yontas. It's been pretty challenging, but I will be trying to catch up as fast as I can. With that, I want to thank everybody for joining me here this morning. All of our viewers and listeners, I'm grateful to have you with me, to give me the power and the strength to keep on going this difficult time. And I want to wish everybody a good Shabbos. We will be lighting candles tonight at 7 o'clock. We'll be having a story and candle lighting with the kids. So join us on YouTube and Facebook. And until then, I would like to say adios. Oh, Rob is 51st anniversary this Sunday. Rob Wertheimer. Wow, Bob and Gail, God bless you. It's about time for you to engage the 5 voices of marriage, to engage that in your relationship as well. It's going to transform. The next 50 years is going to be completely different, better than the first 50 years. You guys are awesome. We love you both and want to wish you a very, very big, hearty, happy Mazel Tov. Good Shabbos to you, Marty. Good Shabbos, Alicia, also powerful. Graciela, thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom. Marty, Mazel Tov to Bob Wertheimer. Let's see what's going on YouTube before we sign off here today. Elaine, does this relate to the Song of Solomon? Hashem is our groom. What is the Song of Solomon? What is the song? You're talking about Song of Songs? Shir Shirim, is that what you mean? Yeah, absolutely. Hashem is our groom. You'll be seeing that in the subsequent discussion as it develops. Absolutely. Carlos is with us. Shabbat Shalom. What a pleasure to have Carlos there. Anyways, thank you, everybody. Stay safe and be successful. Open your heart up to the trust in God. You will surprise yourself to the extraordinary blessings coming your way. Please do send me your feedback. I love to hear from you all. Rabbi@jewishgardens.com. Give me a call, text, a phone.